Days Gone is better than I expected. I was already hyped for the release, as this is really a type of game that I like a lot. Open world, single player, story focused, with some nice progression systems to grow your character. But I did not expect to get so attached to Deacon, who you of course play, but also the other characters that you meet along the way are really well done. There are missions in this game that really come close to Naughty Dog style storytelling and gameplay. So I would totally say that if you enjoy the PlayStation exclusives that Sony put out this generation, then you will totally like Days Gone as well. I will share more impressions in this video without telling any spoilers of course, so a like on the video would be super appreciated, and let's go. The big hordes with up to 500 enemies on the screen were always the most unique aspect of this game, and yes, fighting them is as challenging and frightening as you expect, making it even more rewarding when you finally take them out. Something you can, by the way, already do early in the game to, for example, already get a really powerful weapon that you can then use for the rest of the game. So it is a skill to be able to kill these enemies while you are not that powerful, but you will be rewarded. And even if you killed your first horde, you will easily get murdered by a horde that is double the size and also running at you. I really like that you can already encounter these hordes early in the game, but really don't stand a chance, so you have something to work towards too. And that's really what Sony Ben did well. A lot of the things in Days Gone feel rewarding because it's part of one of the storylines that halfway through or at the end give you a special reward. It's kind of sad though that most of these rewards are new looks for your bike that are hard to see and just not that impactful, but there will luckily be enough things that are handy to get, like new crafting recipes or weapons. A lot of the open world activities are linked to these storylines, so killing for example multiple enemies in a camp will give you in the end a cool reward, but it will also build up your trust with a camp in that region. This is another system that works really well because the things that you can buy with trust that is increased after doing things for that camp are really worth the trouble. While playing the game, you will get a lot of calls via your radio that tells you to go back to an old camp to do a mission for them, and you will totally find yourself going back to these old regions because that camp might have a powerful gun that you can only buy if you increase your trust. So even when you get further in the game, you will totally have a good reason to go back to the old regions as well. The feeling and the impact of the guns could be better for sure, but I do like the way you are kind of forced to use weapons in Days Gone because it's pretty different compared to other third-person shooters. Ammo can namely be pretty limited, especially early on in the game, so shooting half your magazine onto one enemy is really not smart because they will not have any bullets left for all the other enemies in the area. And there will mostly be a lot of other enemies in the area. Focusing on headshots in this game is really key, since that will instantly kill the enemy and only cost one bullet. So you really want to make sure that every bullet counts and just shoot 2 bullets with your submachine gun to already kill the Ripper instead of more than is needed. The only time you want to hold the fire button is against a horde or a super powerful enemy, and moments like that will be super satisfying because you are containing yourself most of the time. From the trailers and the pre-release footage that Sony released, we could already tell that there were enough different enemies to kill, and while they did show most of them already in promotional material, there will later on be some enemies, mostly humanoids, that do add some nice variety to the gameplay. But I also have to say that killing the freakers never really gets old, even after 10, 20 or 30 hours. I also like how the developer Sony Ben really takes the time to show you why you want to kill these enemies. There are really a ton of missions about the crazy Ripper cult that worship the freakers, giving you a really good reason to shoot their head off. But also the regular human enemies get some nice background sometimes that show you why it's worth killing these people that are only in this world right now to cause harm to other humans. Sometimes you fight enemies in a game because they happen to be in the world and will attack you as well, but Days Gone does a cool job of going deeper than that and giving you a good reason to take them all out in the process. But the real star of this game are the characters though, and as I said in the intro, I never expected that I would care this much. The game gets insanely good when you reach the third camp of Iron Mike. We of course already saw him in a trailer. And that's of course the thing, you really need a camp to survive in the harsh world of Days Gone. And you as Deacon are a drifter that goes out into the world to do runs for camps. So get special material, for example, that is needed. But now in this third camp, sometimes people will come with you. And the writing for these missions is really top notch. Because the characters will talk to each other when riding to their objective. And when at the objective, and then you will learn more about them, including about Deacon himself. Why is he wearing this jacket all the time? What did he do before the outbreak? The conversations will really feel natural, just like the presentation of the cutscenes. And the animations are really on par with the other PS4 exclusives, including the previously released Naughty Dog games. Just like the voice acting that really brings these characters to life. Wandering around in the open world in search for new resources or nests to take out is fun, but it's really these linear story heavy missions that make you care even more about the game and keep you on the edge of your seat while playing. It's really like a good TV show where you grow to love the characters over time with cliffhangers and sudden things that happen anytime to really keep you engaged. Of course, there will be moments where the missions are less interesting, where you just have to pick up things in the open world and then bring them back to a camp or hunt someone down and chase them on your motorcycle. These things will repeat themselves throughout the whole game, but they do fit your role of someone who is doing errands for a camp. There will still be these story cutscenes in between, but always when I felt, okay, I've done this enough, there would be a new story mission like really near. So they really try to balance that out, and I did feel that the balance was pretty great. I want to give a special shout out to Sam Witwer for playing Deacon, because Deacon can now easily rank among the best PlayStation characters alongside Nathan Drake and Aloy. And that's totally thanks to the writing, but also because of his insane performance that really make you care about Deacon's loss and get you really attached to his journey to see if his wife is still alive. But really, every character in this game that gets a lot of time has an interesting background and adds something meaningful to the story, makes you want to learn more about them. It's really well done, and I did not expect that. It's a story and a presentation alongside the really fun gameplay that makes you look beyond the shortcomings. So the band did a good job for a first open world game, but it does mean that there are some things that could totally be improved. One obvious thing is the survivors in the open world that you can find, but they will have no emotion in their face, always say the same lines and look similar as well. I also missed a good reason to want to go inside the many buildings in this game, like look for loot, as resources that you will find are almost all the same everywhere. And if you have a full inventory, then there's really no good reason to get off your motorcycle and explore one of the many now empty houses. While the world looks pretty cool and is more varied than I thought it would be, I really missed a good reason to want to explore it all. They do a great job of making the world feel dangerous though, especially later on in the game with more enemies that will come and hunt you even when you ride on a motorcycle. There will also be these special blue question marks that pop up on the minimap and ask for your attention, but they are never really worth chasing because of the lack of a meaningful reward. Of course, it's an open world game, there will be some glitches as well, although I never really encountered anything that game breaking, like at one point a character would not move, so I had to restart my checkpoint. Sometimes enemies would get stuck or anything, but it's really not as bad as it can be with other open world titles. The frame rate though is my biggest complaint. I'm playing on a PS4 Pro, and very often the frame rate would go down drastically when riding around the Farewell Wilderness. It's a shame because it does take you out of the experience. They did release many patches though during the pre-release time that did improve the performance, but even on the latest update 1.03, the big day one patch, I still have issues that make me wonder how the game even runs on a regular PS4. So yes, this is sometimes when there are a ton of enemies on the screen, but mostly when you're riding on your motorcycle and going very fast, then the game has a hard time to keep up. I have the game on an external hard drive though, so maybe if I put it on the regular hard drive of the PS4, the performance will be better. I will totally try that out, but I still hope that they will release more patches after launch to really combat this. Another thing to note are the load times. They are pretty substantial, especially when you load up the game. There are no load times, of course, when you drive around in the open world, so that is pretty nice. But very often when you go from gameplay into a cutscene, you will see this black screen first before you see the characters talk, and that does feel pretty old school compared to the other PS4 exclusives that I mentioned in this video. But yeah, you do forget about these shortcomings when you do the different activities in the open world, or mostly when playing the brilliant linear story missions. It has made a bigger impact on me than I would expect, and It really makes Days Gone worth checking out if you are into these single player PS4 exclusive games, or just single player games, open world games in general. Like, even if you're not into zombies, I'm not a big fan of zombies as well. I mean, I think they're fine, they are fun to kill, I give them that, but this game is really more about surviving in a harsh world and about the emotional connection and what it is like to have your world turned upside down by something terrible that happens. And I really hope that Days Gone would turn out this way after seeing the first reveal trailer that was more focused on the story and the world. And it's even more than that, it's also enormous. There's a ton of content in the game, like way more than I expected. And I'm happy because I don't want this to end. So I will totally be playing way more, getting the best weapons, etc. I can't wait for you to finally play the game. I will have a ton of tips and tricks up, of course, as usual, to help you get the most out of your Days Gone experience. So totally subscribe for everything Days Gone, like the video to support channel, and they also announced the DLC. I got all the info that you can watch by clicking on the screen, and I will speak to you next time. Goodbye!